Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we'll make a get player move function which will let the player type in his move. So if we have just here, that is this board, so if the player want to type in his board or in the place that is with his letter, either X or O, that should be placed in any of these cell. So let's make that in the function. So it should be, let us define over here. Let's define the function, and that should be get player move. Let me say it's move, and it should get the board because it should track which place the player letter should be just placed. So basically we'll just make a move here, that is the empty string over here, and let me just make a bigger space here. And after that, what you're gonna do is we'll just check for this move, that is if the move is not in. If it is not in 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9, so these are basically cell, and let's split this. And if you just split this, you will contain a list of element containing 1 to 9, and I'll say or not is space free. So basically this function is not yet created, but we'll just create this function that is space free, and it will just take us the board and the move. So this move is basically converted or typecasted to this integer, and it is passed in is space free method. So this is space free method will basically check for the space, or basically see if there is any space, and it will return just a true if the past move is free on the past board. So if this move is free on the board, then it will just return a true. So basically it is for the is space free. So first of all, we'll just complete this move. So I'll just say print, then what is your move, what is, let me say what is your next move over here. And let me also give a suggestion that must be 1 to 9, and it should exclude the 0. So let's give this message to the user, and after this what you're gonna do is we'll just say move should be now inputted by the user. So with this input function, and the next is we'll just return this move from this function. So I'll just say typecast it to the integer and just return the move from this get player move function. So first of all, let's make this is space free method to just check whether this move is valid on the board or not. So in order to do that, let's define over here, that is define me is space free, is it will take the two argument, that is the board and the move. So I'll just say first is board here and another is move. So let's define this function now. So this function basically returns us a boolean, that is true or false, and it is based on the past move, and is this past move free on the board, or if the board space is free. So let's return directly, that is the board, and in the board what you're gonna do is we'll just pass this move. So board will have the position that is from 1 to 9, and based on that move I'll just say just is digit. So this function basically check if there is digit or if the cell is occupied or not. So if the cell will be occupied, then it will just return a false. If the cell is free, then it will return the true. So we have just completed the get player move function 2. Now it's time to just make another function, that will be make move function. So let's define over here, that is define the make move. So let me say make move here, and in this make move you just pass a board, and you have to pass a letter, that is basically X or O. So and the last would be move. So basically this make move function will check for the space free or not. If the space is free, it will just assign this letter in that board position. So let's make that first. I'll just say if is space free method, that is to check if the space is free or not. So if the space is free, that will normally take the board another move which is from 1 to 9. And if the space is free, what you're gonna do is we'll just put the move that is the letter in that move, basically X or O in that move, if the space is free. If the space is not free, then we have to raise the exception, and the exception should give the message to the user that the make move, let me say make move over here, make move and the field that is not empty. So it should be passed as a message. If the user just want to try to assign the letter to already occupied position, then this exception should be raised and it should give the error that is the field is not empty. So we have just made the three function in order to get the player move and in order to just see if the space is available or not, and accordingly make a move on that free space. So let's call this all of this method in our gameplay. So first of all, go down here, and while calling this true over here, what we're gonna do is we'll just say another sentence here. We'll just put another statement here, that is game is playing, and let's make this game is playing as in true first. So this will be the another loop that will run inside this while true loop, which is our main loop. So I'll say while game, just copy this and paste it over here, and when this is true, basically then we have to just search for the turn. So turn is basically returned from this who goes first, which was the function that we did before. So in this who goes first is basically a random which can be computer and player. So if it is turn as in player, then what you're gonna do is we'll just say that all the loop, all the operation here will be for the player. I'll just say this player turn over here. So in this player turn, first of all we have to draw the board. So let me just grab this draw board from here and let's paste it over here. That is first operation to draw the board based on the elements that is provided here. So after just drawing the board, what you're gonna do is we'll just make a move now. So moves should be made based on this get player move function, based on this function. So let's call this get player move function over here, and this get player move function normally takes the board. So you have to just pass a board here, which is basically the board variable. So let's give this board variable over here and let's make the move now. So we just call this make move function in order to just check the free space, and if there is a free space, then the letter will be assigned to that space. If there is not, then it will just throw an exception. So let's call this make move function, and it should be called with the board first, and after that board we'll just say player letter, which is basically this letter that we just get from input player letter function. And let's get that player letter over here and just define this move. So this is basically turn for the player. If it is not the player turn, what if it is of computer turn? So for now I'll just say pass, and let's save this down first and run it. Then you could see, do you want to be X or O? I'll just say X, and the computer will go first. So it is basically pass for the computer. If there is a turn for computer, you can see if there is a turn for computer, there is simply a pass. So let's try it again and search for the player turn. So let me say X again, then again the computer will go first. So let's save this down again and run it again. I'll say O now. Then this is the player will go first here. So if there is a player, then player will go first. That means this loop will run, and this loop contains all the method that has to just define the move for the player. So if I just say 3 is the place, then you could say in the 3 place the O has been placed. And if I again say that the next move should be 5, then you could see in the 5th place you have O again. So this is the way the player moves or player plays in our board. So in the next lecture we'll do for this computer, and we'll also implement something that is a is winner function in order to select the winner. So see you in the next.